morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming out on this beautiful fall day. Thank you so much, CIC. Thank you so much, Creative Mornings Boston. It feels very wonderful to be up here. I don't speak a lot, but when I do, it feels like such a wonderful opportunity to connect, to also learn from all of you, and also inspire. I feel very honored to be up here. It's really cool to share my story and share the thing that I love to do most. Actually, two things, making art and also educating about art. So going on to vision, for me, I think about immediately with my work and also how I educate, be bright, be bold, be positive. And so looking right away at some of the illustrations I do, I'm always stemming away from a lot of hyper-realism. I've done a lot of studying that in art school as well, but something that has always clicked for me is the cute animals, is the cute designs and colorful color palettes. Inspirations include Charles Schultz Peanuts, as well as the Sanrio characters, and they really stuck with me throughout my life and really made me happy, and I just wanted to do the same, as well as teaching that joy through the process of all my students of all ages. So I like to start with this picture because this little girl, she didn't know she was going to be an artist. She didn't know she was going to be an arts educator. She's been through a lot, and I have to protect her. I feel so proud of her. She has been doodling in her sketchbook. She's been doodling in her diary on the sides of her homework. She really had such a great support system, friends all through grade school, and I'm still friends with my best friends from 5th grade to this day, and they still come out to some events. They saw me over when I was at Colleen's Ice Cream the other day, and that just meant the world. But for a little bit of the darker side, she was a part of the one-child policy. She was adopted. She had some darker days. She had a loving father, a beautiful, wonderful, incredible sister, and later on, she unfortunately lost her father. She went into foster care with her sister, and that was a huge turning point. In my high school, I'm very thankful for my art teacher, Douglas Slack at Holliston High. I was able to really dive into artwork during a time that was very hard for me. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and during high school, that is the time everyone is like, oh, what are you going to do with your life? Are you going to college? What is your career going to be? And I had no idea. I took art too, and I was able to create some really fun pieces, and I realized that I love the process. I love really focusing in on something and committing myself to that project and making something beautiful. This art style is very, very different from what I create today, but it was a starting point. And this connection, this mentorship is everything. I was even able to reconnect afterwards and do my student teaching when I got my master's degree in art education. And so for me, family is family, but it's also found family, the people who are there for you from the start. And so that is very special to me. After high school, I was able to go to college. I applied. I had safety school, a good middle ground, and then a reach school. And so I was applying to UMass Amherst, BU, Mass Art, UMass Dartmouth, and I saw myself as a city girl. I loved being able to get around. I didn't drive, and so this just really felt right for me. There were so many museums. I was inspired so much by just the community itself. And as a foster youth during that time, I was trying to be strategic. What will work best for me? What will leave me with the least amount of debt while also pursuing something that I was really passionate about? And so Mass Art was the choice. Little did I know it would be a rocky road. Again, more artwork, very, very different from what I do now. I met so many wonderful professors that really pushed me and saw a drive in me and light in me within my work. At the same time, I also saw some professors that they didn't really like my work, and I was kind of navigating and figuring out, all right, is art for me? Do I belong here? And so when I look back at these photos in art school at Mass Art, you're able to have reviews where you show all your work for the semester. The first year, you take a little bit of everything, and you're not really dedicated to a major yet, but you are sophomore year. And so sophomore year, I put up all my work, and this was that first semester. Second semester, also you'll notice my hair changes a bunch. I never look the same in every picture. I go through very impulsive time periods where I just like cut bangs. It's I don't recommend it. So in junior year, again, more art. It looks very different. We have charcoal, we have digital art, we have pencil. And then junior year, things are getting a little more brighter. I'm feeling a little more confident, trying different things. But during all this time, I really was struggling with navigating the student life and also working. I worked like 4 jobs in undergrad to be able to afford to even exist in that community. I was an RA, and so you'd have knocks on your door at like 12 a.m. from the residents asking for help, and you have an 8 a.m. class the next day. So you kind of learn to adapt and figure out what works for you and what brings you joy and replenishes your energy. And so during this time, I was navigating all those jobs, but at the same time, the work wasn't good in my. I still look back and I cringe, but I can't have shame because this is a part of the journey. This is part of the learning, and I say that to my students. Process is, for me, more important than the final product. That's where all the learning comes from. This is junior year. I become a little more comfortable, and a lot of this is because of the mentorship. I had a wonderful professor, John Roman, who really taught perspective really well, and that was something that the learning curve was very steep, and I was struggling with, but I finally got it. And it's called Cherry Blushing Cottage, and I love it. It's just a dream world. I'd want to live here. I'd want to live inside this house. I'd have a cup of tea. And so a super special project where I felt like things were starting to turn for me in terms of my own progress and pride in my work. This is senior year of college. We're starting to finish up our portfolios. We're going out into the professional world. And these ducks, they come up a little bit later too. Guinea pigs, I had just adopted guinea pigs during the pandemic, and so I was drawing them. Going forward, all the reviews during undergrad were over Zoom, so a lot of that in-person learning we had lost because of the pandemic, and so we were kind of figuring out, okay, what does studio life look for me or for my friends, and how do we keep going and keeping our momentum up. And a lot of that, for me, stemmed from, okay, if I'm going to draw, if I'm going to spend 8 hours on something or 4 hours on something, I got to enjoy it. And so a lot of that is the animals, and that specific interest came from my suburbs. When I grew up, there was a lot of farm animals around, and I just really loved them. And so I was following that joy. I got to experience and test out some patterning. This was the first time I did patterning before in my senior year, and that kind of follows me too a little bit later on. I love teaching how to do a repeated pattern to friends and students. It's something that once you have it, you can use it for anything. If you want to like make a custom notebook or fabric, it's really fun. We have the guinea pigs again. And so this style really stuck. This is senior year. These were my postcard designs. If I were to mail out like, hi, I'm an illustrator, please hire me. These were my designs for senior year. And they're really simple, but I really like them. This was the time when I discovered Procreate's dry brush. It's nice and gritty, and it gives you that handmade feel, even though it's digital art. this was an assignment for class. We had to do a coaster design, and I was still in the mentality of, oh, my art's not good, like everyone can do hyperrealism, like why am I even here? And so a lot of like bad thoughts on repeat in regards to like how I felt about my work. But we had a project where we worked with Ryder Luxury Apartments and made a coaster for them for their Bear Moose collab, and I was the student that was chosen to actually have their design used for that collaboration. And out of everyone, I felt a bit of imposter syndrome during that time. I felt like, oh, but this is such a different style, like everyone else is more realistic. But it didn't matter because they liked this style for that problem or for that prompt. And it was a very special moment that made me feel like I was good enough, like my art can exist in the world. There are people that would want it. And it being senior year where you're like, I don't know what's gonna happen after this, it worked out. I graduated, wonderful, wonderful, debt-free too, through all the jobs and scholarships. Thank you. And I always like to keep in mind the people that are there from the beginning. Book Wonder is a wonderful small bookshop in Medford. They specialize in diverse literature, and Melanie is just a fabulous human being. They had collabed with me and asked me to do their logo, and so we did it. This was the first freelance opportunity outside of college, and so I'm really thankful. I'm still in touch with her. Another huge turning point is my work with the Powell Art Center. This was the first mural I had ever done in my life. So going from undergrad to this large-scale work was very scary, but I am really thankful for Ashley Young, Dia Grosh. They really took me under their wing and trusted me with this process. And I made sure from the get-go to really do my research to figure out and problem solve and make sure that, all right, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to figure out how. And so with this video, this is my studio apartment back in 2022. So the couch is basically a little insert where the bed is right behind the couch, and then this is the walls right here. So it's tiny, and this is just the size of one window, and I didn't feel comfortable freehand painting just on the window itself if I've never done a mural before. So I decided to tape up paper, measure it to the exact size of the window, and pretty much draw what I wanted to draw in there, and then trace it on the window, and then I went and painted. With it being the first mural, it eliminated any uncertainty, any worries, because I'm a worrywart. I get in my head a bunch, but it gave me a plan, and I knew how I was going to look at the end. And for something so big, that can be kind of scary, especially if you've only worked on a tablet for the past, 3 years. Some more pictures. But this was for Experience Chinatown. This happens every year in the summer, and it's super special because it brings people out to experience it and support the small and local businesses. Chinatown faces a lot of issues with gentrification and pushing people out that's their home. And so this festival really highlights and supports the local artists too, that we're here to stay. And so very passionate about that. Following year, I got to work with teens and teach them about the mural process and make a mural with them. This is really special because I love teaching art, and with murals specifically, the process itself isn't accessible to everyone. The people who are judging murals and accepting them and funding them, you're basically giving people voices, and the question is, who's getting those voices? And so I love dismantling this and talking about this with the youth too, because this is such a specific job to create public art and to inform them and show them the process so early on. That lets them know that this is definitely a job that you can do. At the same time, I want you to be aware of the obstacles and the hoops you may have to jump through, and just having that awareness really helps break down those barriers. And the teens in 2023 and I'll go back to this, and 2024, they're both very different classes, but they brought so much energy. They were incredible, and it was really fun to bring them through that process and just see their growth and confidence in the project itself. I got to talk on GBH with Jim and Marjorie. This is Cynthia from Pella Arts Center, and I look up to her so much. This was a very special moment where I got to reflect on my work with the Pella Arts Center and specifically the teen murals, and it was super special. I feel like with this career, it's a lot of go, 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 but these moments to really speak and connect with all of you is really special. It's a way to also kind of take a pause and see what you've done, and I don't do that a lot, so it's really cool. This is another mural, Zone 3 Community Sketchbook, Plant Goddess. These were the initial sketches. There's different ones, and the favorite one was the woman with the plant and the vegetation just blooming out of it. There were some edits, and the design got changed a bit. But I like to show sketches. I do this with my students too. Like, this is how this came from point A to point Z, like all the way down the alphabet. And I love limited color palettes because it's just, they feel so cohesive to me and it's natural to me. At the same time, with public art, limited color palettes, it's a little more cost effective if you're working with physical paint. And this was the finished one. I did not do this all alone. I actually worked with a team. Here we go. Community Sketchbook is where you invite everyone out to paint with you. And so this was a very special day. I even had my partner come out and really help and work on this with me. But everyone was welcome to come. You didn't have to pay. You could have just walked down the street and joined the event and painted, which was the whole point about the accessibility factor of this public art project. This is the other artist, Tiana Rivera. She did the other side of the mural. So it's huge, it's 200 feet long. And it was super fun. I'm very thankful for the entire team at Zone 3 and Eisenberg Projects for really trusting me in this, because all I did was that one mural before, and I believed in myself, and sharing that with the team, that was enough for them, and I think that that's really special. Like, think of those people that believed in you from the get-go and basically took your word, even if you only did one thing, or maybe you didn't do anything. That was the starting project. That's so important. From there, I've done some electric boxes. Again, really good to see sketches, see what how things progress. This picture is important because I was a little grumpy. I'm pretty small. It's hard to carry things sometimes, but with public art, you're holding a lot of paint a lot of times, and so I'm known from my friends to really be the one with these giant tote bags, the TJ Maxx tote bags, one in this hand and one in this hand, and walking down the street. But you make it work. I gotta share the ups and downs. But yeah, a lot of public art, including Experience Chinatown, because that's in the summer. This was also in the summer too. It gets hot, so like maybe you'll start 70 degrees and then wait while you're live painting, and then it'll go up to like 90 degrees, 95 degrees. And you can see the sun travel, and Chinatown, depending on the site, the shade might not be there. In Chinatown, like definitely there is less green vegetation to like shelter you from the sun, but again, we make it work. Just like my digital art, I always start with like these really, oh yeah, the camera fell. I always start with these really big blocked out shapes, and then I go over with the lines. I think they're really fun. That's the finished one. This is in conversation to the first Tiger's Hot Pot together. The first one was a temporary mural, so I was like, all right, I want to bring them back. I want them to stay. And so when I got City of Boston Paint Box program, I was able to kind of welcome them back into the world. Here's another one. I got to paint a piano, jumping on over. Oh yeah, this is a good one. This is Brookline Wrapped. This is a very special project. Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you so much, Andy, and the entire team for this project. It was super fun. I like this sketch because it looks so different from the end. That's really good to keep in mind, whatever project you're doing, to adapt on the spot, because the timeline I was given, I just realized that, oh, I don't want to worry about these transition areas if things don't line up perfectly, and so it works perfect with Brookline Wrapped because this repeating pattern, just like I did in undergrad, this repeating pattern is pretty much wrapping paper. So when it was on the box, it's okay if things get cut off because that repeating pattern is still consistent and you're not worried about the composition as a whole. But yeah, I love the ice cream ducks. This is right outside of Far Out Ice Cream in Brookline, and so I did some research and I found out, ooh, there's toppings, there's like sprinkles and strawberries and cherries and all these different toppings at Far Out Ice Cream, and I want to make sure it was kind of in conversation with that as well, because whatever place your public art exists in, it's kind of speaking about the community that it exists in. So love that. Some more character art. I do guinea pigs a lot, but I need to really expand, and so I've done some cat art for all the cat lovers. More cats. This is supposed to be along like Back Bay, having a little fun romanticized day, just enjoying the day out. Some strawberries. I did My Little Pony, and I was really happy I got to try this out. I was the cover artist for it. These feet were the hardest thing to draw ever because they're like overlapping and they give you a brand book and it has to look exactly like the original design, which makes sense. They want consistency. But even something as simple as, oh, the shine on the people here, let's move it to the other side. Like, it's very, very specific. And I'm so glad I got to try this out. I also realized this isn't for me. I really like my original characters. This is super fun. But I never want to draw pony legs again, overlapping. And these are some more recent projects, Boston Compass. This was a tight timeline. I didn't think I could really do it at first, but I was like, hold on, I can figure this out. Instead of doing a whole new composition and design within like a weekish, I decided, all right, I'm gonna bring back some old friends, some old characters, and so I just redrew them all and put them in here, and then I made the new border, and that ended up working out really well. And so, as artists or creatives, don't be afraid to revisit old art and re-edit it or change it up. This was a recent sticker design. It's cool to see different sketches and styles. The actual sticker that was chosen for Solid Ground was these two, and it's super fun. This is a groundhog. I've never drawn a groundhog before, but I made sure to get some really good reference pictures, and Lucia at Solid Ground also sent wonderful references too. But yeah, I really love drawing animals and food and supporting local businesses. And so thinking about progress too, and artist practice, Silly Pigs is a very special and silly project. It's hard to talk about it seriously, but it's definitely a joy project. So I started this during the pandemic when I had adopted guinea pigs. And it follows Willow, Mochi, Noki, Apollo, Artemis, and Rosie in their day-to-day. Our herd looks a little different now, but during this time, it was really fun to just have a project and be like, okay, this is low stakes. It's just a once a week comic, 4 panels, super simple. I can do that. And now I was able to print an entire comic anthology with about 100 of the comics, and so that is super special. I didn't think that I'd be able to like actually bind it into like a physical book, but through the Mass Cultural Council Artist Individual Grant, this is what funded that. But I had all the work before. This makes me think about the 100 Days project. It takes 100 days to be really good at something, and so little by little, I just drew these little characters. This is Willow, Mochi, Noki's the orange one, and the boys, Apollo, Artemis, have the craziest hair. I'd give them haircuts. They live to be 7 years old, the boys, and we still have Willow and Mochi and Noki. And we brought in 2 more boys to fill their cage out. But yeah, they bring me a lot of joy, and so in terms of subject and what to focus on, as whatever creative you are, photography, art, music, dance, so on, follow your joy. It's so important because I'm not going to be grumpy if I'm like doing something that I love. This is so simple, but like it's just one comic of the entire anthology. I'm using the same brush too. It's that dry brush, and so I'm still like enjoying that progress that I take into my illustration work. So, very silly, simple. I feel like comics, they are very intense, and I'm working on that medium, and I want to make something more complex and more deeper. But I feel like this is something that, you know what, this was a big project. This took 2 years to make, 2 years to print, and it's silly and it brings joy, and the world is too cold and we have bad days, and sometimes this is what we need. Alright, we got some tabling. Boston Art Book Fair, I was able to bring, I used to like staple my book, like hand staple it before I got it bound, or had the funds to bound it professionally. But I used to like staple it into a zine. I think I had like 4 staplers. I had to really work through that because each time the booklet was so thick that it would break the stapler. But we've moved on from that. This was Mike's 2023. Something to note is I applied to MICE 2 years. I got rejected the first year, and then I finally got in this year. And so when it comes to applications, keep applying. You don't know who's on the board. You don't know, maybe that first year someone had a really bad experience with a guinea pig. Maybe someone maybe a guinea pig bit that person who was judging all the applicants. So I was in the Comics and Color Festival. I got to table and also speak there. It was really wonderful to connect with all the other artists and creators. I think all these tabling events are really fun because we're all learning together. We're a community network. Boston Kids Comic Fest, same thing. So this time I got to work with the kids. That was really fun. I got to lead them through some drawing prompts, and it was really special. We had parents too in there, and they were giving all the kids the seats, and all the parents were sitting on the floor in the back. And I was like, here's a clipboard. You can draw along too. So these festivals are really, really fun, really special. Even if you feel like you don't have enough work, still apply. I think that it's really wonderful. My partner here, Raphael Pagarigan, he just started his own comic book, and that was his first festival, and I was so proud of him, and I saw a light shine within him too. And there's something so special being in a place where you're sharing and being vulnerable about your work, and it's being seen, and people are getting really excited about it, and you're geeking out with other artists that also love the same thing. It's really special. And so, love the festivals. I don't know how that got in there. Anyway, these are the new boys. This is Java and Cookie, and so they took the same cage that Apollo and Artemis used to be in, but they love their pellets and hay. That's so funny. All right, moving on to art education. I started out at Danforth Art Museum in 2018 as an art assistant. So I was preparing supplies, helping classrooms, being like a TA. I think I matted over 1,000 pieces of art and hung it up every single Friday for 8 weeks straight for 5 different classrooms. So it was crazy. I had fun. The kids were adorable. But that one experience, that internship where I was shadowing teachers, led me to being a lead teacher at Brimmer and May Day School in Chestnut Hill during their summer program. And I got to teach art and do the whole thing, but create my own lessons. From there, I'm still at the Museum of Fine Arts, but I started working there. And Brookline Art Center, Arlington Art Center, and then all these other festivals, some of them I talked earlier. And it's really wonderful to be able to make that impact and create pedagogy and lessons that are really special to each student. Like once you get to know a class, you can kind of cater your lessons to their interests. Something that's really important to me is accessibility and making those accommodations and meeting students where they're at, because not everyone is able to have art in their schools or public schools or wherever. So when it comes to these workshops and weekend classes, that's their outlet, and I want to make sure they get the best day ever when they walk into my class. I think about younger me who may have not been seen or had the chance to take art classes until I switched schools in high school. And so just creating that opportunity and showing them what's possible, super important. I graduated with my master's this spring, 2024. Super exciting. I went to Lesley University. But yeah, these are some of the projects. I teach K through 12 at the museum and other art centers, but these are just snippets. I love just the mixed media. We have sculptural work. We have tunnel books. Done some Chinese brush painting around Lunar New Year. And I get to bring in my own interests, so comics and public art. Here are some examples of comics. So students bring their own styles and interests, and kind of giving them advice and helping them build their skill set. It's really powerful and really, really cool. They walk out of that classroom and they're like, yeah, I can do this. I'd rather a student kind of come out of a classroom with subpar work, but having learned something and feel really good about the process, rather than them making like an amazing piece over and over and over again, but not knowing how they did it or any intentionality with that. So really cool. This is my really good friend Katie Charpentier. We co-founded Lily Lane, which is an art directory for artists who are emerging, and diverse. It's small but mighty. We kind of, right now, we pay out of pocket, but we're looking for grant money to really fund the domain. But every single artist is here, and they have their specialty, and it links to their website. So I think this is important, especially for any artist starting out, if they graduate art school, to just have that first yes, to have that first community that is there for them from that get-go. And so we love this. We do picnics once a year and sketchbook in the library once a year. Super fun. But yeah, I'm starting to finish up. Community is the biggest thing. So I would not be here without each and every single person. So many people that have had my back aren't even like pictured here. These are just the pictures I was able to grab from my phone real quick. But I'm just so thankful. I grew up kind of from a rough background, but I was able to have my own fountain family, and that in turn gave me energy and kept me going with my own passion and able to give out to the world that positivity and excitement for art. And I love visiting friends, so I'm always going to like the Brighton Bazaar and fun art festivals. This was over in Graffiti Alley. Michael and I went painting. But everyone has a voice, everyone has things they want to share into the world, and it's so beautiful when we come together and we support and congratulate one another on that. All right, some last notes. Let's be real. So it's difficult without a car, particularly with public art. This was for the plant goddess mural. I took public transit to Home Depot, and then I got all this. I was like, I cannot take that on public transit. So I took a lift back home, and it was like $30. Studio space can be challenging. We saw that with the giant drawing prepping for the Power Art Center mural. And so just being mindful of what your supplies is, where you can make your art or be creative. I don't know. I always look back and I'm like, we made it. It's okay. Take it one project at a time. And being a young Asian woman, it's kind of tricky in the big world. Sometimes youthful appearance. In the professional world, you can get a lot of bias. Traveling can be a little tricky, but it hasn't stopped me. And I encourage everyone to just keep being brave, keep having your plans and problem solving. Like, you will make it through. If you really want something, you always find a solution. And community is such a huge part in that. Freelance is not consistent sometimes. I've gone through periods where financially it's very hard and things are a bit tight, but again, community is so important. So we look out for one another, we're looking for jobs for one another, and it's worked so far. Art block is real. It's important to take care of yourself. Make sure you're eating, make sure you're sleeping, try and prevent any bits of burnout, and look out for signs for burnout, not just for yourself, but for your other creative friends. Comparing your art constantly to others can be an issue and also lead to burnout. So keep trying to focus on you. Your journey is so different from the person right next to you. And that itself can be healing, kind of like owning that. Like, yeah, I'm on my own journey. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I have trust in myself. And rejection is a part of the journey. Time keeps going on, but keep applying again. I applied twice to get the Power Art Center Experience Chinatown mural that first time. I applied twice. I got rejected once, and then the next year I was like, you know what, I'm going to try again, because you never know what happens. But yeah, takeaways: apply. Your art style can change. My college work looks nothing like the work I do now, maybe senior year. Find your people and grow together. You both learn from others and inspire, and it's really cool to be just like here today, just among people who just kind of get it. And it's good to kind of figure out ideas. It could be a project or even just day-to-day like studio stuff, or talking about materials, or what's happening in your classroom, or how to get the best photography shot. It goes so many different ways. And make sure you like what you're doing. Don't be afraid to change things up, but at the same time, it takes practice. So like, I'd say, and I'm very hard on myself, especially having been a foster youth, like, you kind of give yourself that huge critical mindset, because for me, like, I was on my own at that time, and I was like, okay, there's no plan B. I'm either gonna make this work or cardboard box. So I really tried to like keep going, follow your joy, and I can't be critical. Like, I'm really trying to be better about that, but to try something for 100 days, and then kind of readjust and reflect and see what works from there. But yeah, nothing happens overnight. And I love this. Raise your hand if you've seen Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah, oh, okay, wonderful. Yeah, so this quote: when I choose to see the good side of things, I'm not being naive. It is strategic and necessary. It's how I learn to survive through everything. I really feel so attached to this quote, because it is the best quote that has put into words my specific life, and in ties with my art journey, my art education. and just my life in general. I feel like I choose positivity. I choose to make cute things because it makes me happy, because it keeps me going, and I can see the infectious joy it brings to others too. Okay. And last but not least, this talk is really special to me. It feels like I'm sharing my whole self and being, and this is something I would have wanted to share to my loving Father, and I'm really happy to be here this morning, and it's such an honor to share my art education experience, and just connect with you all. So thank you so much. You can find me here also looking for a job.